On this Martin Luther King Jr. Day, the legacy of the civil rights icon is inspiring action. At a California elementary school, students are covering up a graffiti-filled portion of their neighborhood with inspiring posters and uplifting messages. The young students spent some time learning about Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy, and they decided to do something special to honor him. In Washington, Dr. King's family and many other civil rights activists are also spending the day advocating for voting rights legislation. This morning, they marched for 2 miles, crossing the Frederick Douglass Memorial Bridge, all in the hopes of sending a message to Congress. NBC News reporter Gary Grumbach joins us now from Washington. Gary, set the scene for us here. What are you seeing and hearing from those activists today?
Hey there. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of chanting. We're seeing a lot of people out here. I want to give you a sense of what's happening here. The march is just wrapping up here in southeast Washington, D.C. Hundreds of people walked across the Frederick Douglass Memorial Bridge in the name of voting rights. They say, what do they want? Voting rights? When do they want it? Now. And ideally, they'd like it done this week. Today is thought of as a day off for many people. The federal government is closed. The House, the Senate, they're out of session. Schools are closed. Banks are closed, but the people here, they think of this as a day on. They want people to understand how important they believe voting rights is to democracy, and they really want something done about this. So they're calling for the Senate to pass the John Lewis voting rights bill. The House, as we know, passed it just last week, and this will be a really groundbreaking, if this is passed, a really groundbreaking, overwhelming bill, because it really is going to create a regulation and a sort of norm for how elections are run in this country. It's going to take big money out of politics, they say, and it's also going to remove some of the restrictive voting laws that have been put in place by 19 states around the country. Here's what some folks I talked to today had to say.
This might be the most important issue facing us right now. We don't have a democracy if people can't vote, and right now Republicans are suppressing the vote in a way that we haven't seen since the 1950s and 60s. So it's essential that everybody rise up and fight as hard as they can for voting rights right now.
Now, this is, of course, Washington, D.C. Nothing is easy in this town. And right now, there's 2 main roadblocks when it comes to passing this legislation in Congress by the names of Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin.
Gary Grumbach, you're really getting your steps in there. Thank you for taking us live to that march and marching along with the organizers there. Let's talk about this noon press conference featuring Speaker Pelosi, other members of Congress, as well as members of the King family. What can we expect to hear from them on voting rights legislation?
So it's going to be about the urgency of doing this now. We've seen over the past few months the Biden agenda is sort of teetering on the edge here when it comes to success, because we saw Build Back Better be held up by Manchin and Sinema. We're seeing a very, very similar situation with an agenda item that President Biden promised on the campaign trail. This was something he said over and over again on the campaign trail, and this is something that Martin Luther King III has really minced no words about. Here's what he had to say.
I was just greatly disappointed that you stand in the way and have the gall to not realize that what is being done in all of these states, it's about the filibuster, and yet every last one of these states that have passed these regressive laws have done it with all Republican legislators, not bipartisan. So that to me seems to be not a sufficient argument.
And so MLK III and others are saying they want this to get done with or without Manchin and Sinema, whether or not the filibuster works, because they also say there's 50 Republicans, too. There are many people in the Congress and the Senate that can get this passed. It's not necessarily just on Manchin and Sinema.
No, it is not, and they need to figure this out. All right, Gary Grumbach from a very active scene there. Thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.